What's up, legends? Helldivers 2 just released today the Freedom's Flame Warbond, which has been a very anticipated warbond, taking 2 months to release. And today we've gone ahead and unlocked it entirely. I played and tested out all 3 weapons and the new booster in the Super Helldive difficulty, and I'm here to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly for this warbond. We're gonna start out here with the page 1 weapon that everyone will come across right away after purchasing this warbond, the SG-451 Cookout. Spoiler alert, things do get better as you go down the pages in the warbond. Now, in my opinion, this weapon is essentially the Punisher shotgun, but the incendiary version of it. And we'll be comparing it here mostly to both the Punisher and the incendiary breaker. Now, right out of the gate, I'll say this. I find the shotgun to be rather disappointing. The damage on it is tragic. And when you look at the damage stats in the armory, you'll come to find that it actually does 320 damage, whereas a weapon like the incendiary breaker will only do 240. Now, that's because the Cookout shotgun will fire 20 pellets, each doing 16 damage, whereas the incendiary breaker will shoot 12 pellets doing 20 damage each. But here's the part the armory stats doesn't tell you. The Cookout shotgun has an obnoxiously low durable damage. So much so that, matter of fact, it has the lowest durable damage out of any shotgun in the entire game. What this means is that enemies with some durable resistance are going to tank these shots like it's nothing. And here's the thing, recently with the addition of difficulty 10, every Brood commander has been replaced for an Alpha commander, and these units have a high durability resistance. Meaning, with the Cookout shotgun, you'll spend quite some time hammering down an Alpha commander to bring down just a single measly unit. Just look at the gameplay and the background. On top of its insanely low durable damage, the shotgun reloads round by round, making it one of the weapons with the most downtime in the entire game. And let's be real, combining a really long reload with really low damage was just a recipe for disaster. The good thing about this shotgun is that it does have some kickback and stagger for players who enjoy it. When comparing it to the Punisher, the Cookout shotgun does have the same amount of kickback, however, it does have less stagger than the Punisher does. So all in all, I'm really sad to say that this shotgun's got absolutely nothing going for it. It sounds great, meaty and all, but it just lacks in the damage department, in the reload department, and overall it's just a really bad pick, which is kinda sad. Now, you'll also notice one thing throughout the rest of this video. We'll be talking about mostly the Terminid faction. The reason being, fire weapons simply don't do well against automatons at all. If you're for some reason strictly an automaton player, you'll want to skip this warbond entirely. This warbond is very heavily designed for Terminid players. Pretty much none of the content within it will be useful for bot play. Now, moving on to the next page, things do get better a bit down the road, so stick with me. On the second page, we unlock the Torcher. Now, the Torcher had absolutely everything to be great. I say had because as of 2 days ago, flame weapons were nerfed to no longer deal damage through armor, meaning flame weapons are no longer effective against chargers. It pretty much only applied to chargers, so yeah. The Torcher is the ultimate case of what could have been. I think the Torcher could have been the best Terminid primary in the entire game. The reason I say that is had they not nerfed flame weapons, and the Torcher would be the first truly effective weapon at dealing with chargers, without forcing us to bring any support weapons to have a response to them. Now, could have been aside, the Torcher is essentially the flamethrower as a primary weapon. So you might wonder if there's a difference between the two, and yes, there is. There are only 3 differences between the Torcher and the flamethrower. First of all is fuel count. We'll call it ammo from here on out, but I'm talking about its fuel tank. The Torcher has 20% less ammo than the regular flamethrower, so you'll be firing away for less time. The second difference between them is that the spray projectile itself on the flamethrower and the Torcher deal damage. To be specific, each tick will deal 3 damage from the flamethrower. Now, with the flamethrower having 100 ammo count, then purely out of projectile damage, the flamethrower will deal a total of 300 damage by utilizing its entire fuel tank. But then, of course, there's all of the fire damage added on top of that and all that. Now, The Torcher, on the other hand, has a projectile damage of 2, which is 33% less damage. Combine that with the decreased 20% ammo count, and you're looking at a far less powerful kill potential. And last but not least, the difference between these two is how far the flame will reach. The range on the flamethrower does reach farther distances than that of the Torcher. All in all, I think it's all very fair. You can carry a primary weapon flamethrower without having to use the support weapon to do so for a little bit of a cost. And were it still decent at dealing with chargers, then we could essentially skip out on the flamethrower support weapon and bring something else in for dealing with heavies such as the Commando or the EATs. With the recent update though, this weapon serves as a swarm clear. But hey, at least it's still gonna be a really decent choice for players to do so. This is not a bad weapon whatsoever. It just kind of came at the wrong time. Oh, and I should note, fire damage always deal the same damage regardless of which weapon it came from. So the dot damage is always the same regardless of the source. Just wanted to point that out. Now moving on to the third page comes my favorite part about this Warbond, the P72 Crisper sidearm. Now it's pretty straightforward. It's literally a sidearm flamethrower. Now why do I love this weapon so much? Simply putting it, the Crisper is now officially the deadliest Terminid sidearm in the entire game. There is not any other choice that even comes remotely close. With this sidearm you can clear out full-on breaches. There is not a single other sidearm that could do the same. Comparing the Crisper to the Torcher, the only two differences between the two of them is the ammo count and the range. The range is even shorter than that of the Torcher, but I still think it's really good. Realistically, you should use flamethrowers to deal with the enemies that are charging you down, so they're always going to get within range at some point. And you can always just light the floor on fire to deal with the massive waves of smaller bugs. And the other difference between the two is that the Crisper has 30 ammo count. The Torcher has 80. The flamethrower, by the way, has 100. So all in all, the Crisper has 30% of the ammo count on the flamethrower per tank. The spray projectile on the Crisper is the same as the Torcher, so that damage is the same. I love this sidearm, and whenever I want a swarm clearing sidearm, this will be my pick of choice. And lastly, on this Warbond, there's the new booster, the Firebomb Hellpods. I can't quite tell whether I love it or I hate it. You see, this booster applies to Hellpods on support weapons and resupply cooldowns as well. That means every time you call in a support weapon or a resupply, this might happen. So if your team is not aware of the booster pick, chances are there will be a lot of team killing when calling in support weapons. Now you can use this aggressively as well. It makes aggressively calling support weapons down more effective, although that is fairly niche. The AoE explosion of it is not too large, but it can be quite useful. If the team is completely aware of the booster, this can help out quite a bit. One thing I found about this booster is that if you use your respawn aggressively to land on a Bio Titan, it will kill it right away with only one Hellpod instead of two, since the Hellpod will explode as soon as it goes right through it. So it can be pretty good at that. I tried it as well on Factory Striders, and it doesn't kill them with one nor with two, so not much of an improvement there. I find the booster to be rather niche and have a very limited amount of potential, but it can be quite useful in the right scenarios. So all in all, I think out of the Warbond, I'm really happy with the Crisper sidearm. I kind of like the Torcher, I'm on the fence about the booster, and I'm extremely disappointed in the Cookout shotgun. So kind of a little bit of everything there. Once again, I should mention the entire Warbond is strictly designed for bug players, and you should avoid all of the weapons and the booster entirely if you're playing against the bots. I do kind of feel like overall it's a fairly niche Warbond, and it's not going to be for everyone. Now let me know what you guys think so far. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll catch you legends on the next one. Peace!